Okay.
10, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. How is that?
Good morning. Welcome to the second day of our opportunity to discuss with the news media some of the events that are going on in and around Atlanta, and particularly the Democratic National Convention. One of the things that we do with some frequency in the city is announce new projects. Today we have a particularly good opportunity because when we built the present airport, we left approximately 31 acres of land immediately adjacent to what now has become the world's busiest airport. In that 31 acres, we now have a proposed project that would include, excuse me, an office building, hotel complex, and a beautiful rendition which you see before you. One of the things that's unique about this is that it is an opportunity of public-private partnership. It's an opportunity of an international investor coming in to join us in Atlanta, and we welcome Mr. Walt Huntley, the president of the Atlanta Economic Development Corporation, and the representatives of London Edinburgh Trust. Got to get that Scottish accent right, that are putting together this project. And I'd like for Walt Huntley to make a brief presentation of what this is about.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to say my name is Walt Huntley. As the mayor had indicated, I'm the president of the Atlanta Economic Development Corporation, and we're basically responsible for coordinating the development process involving the Hartsfield Center project. This is our official unveiling of the models. But before I introduce everyone that is here, I need to just, I'm going to basically explain what we have done and give you a little bit of background on the project, okay? This is indeed what we consider to be a true public-private venture, and you will see more about that as we go along. First, on my immediate left, I'd like to introduce Charles Graham. Charles Graham is the vice president with London and Edinburgh Trust. He handles all of the United States operations here. London and Edinburgh Trust, or LET as we call it, basically is a development company. They have projects in Chicago, San Francisco, and I believe Boston. In addition to doing work in the United States, they do work in Europe, the Netherlands, and also in the Far East. On this side of me is John Ayton. John is the senior executive with Balfour Beatty. Balfour Beatty is one of the largest construction and engineering firms in the United Kingdom. They do work all over the world. And both companies, I might add, are traded on the London Stock Exchange. John Beckwith is the chairman of London and Edinburgh Trust. If you can just acknowledge John there. Thank you. Those are the principals basically in the firm. Also seated are several other individuals, Rodney Strong with contract compliance, Angelo Green with finance, and others. We will basically hear from them during the question and answer period to talk more specifically about the project. Now let me just hit on the background. As the mayor said, in 1980, Hartsfield Airport, the new terminal, opened, and we had the dilemma of what should we do with the old terminal. Some developers thought it should be used for exhibition space. Others felt like we could probably use it for some office space related to the airport. Basically, none of that worked out, and in 1984, the old terminal was demolished, and literally that gave us an opportunity to start from scratch. Basically, we had a 31-acre site, and our biggest challenge at this point was to take advantage of the airport access, the MARTA access, the access to the interstate highway system, and just really see if we could design a state-of-the-art development project, commercial mixed-use development project. It was a precedent-setting maneuver from a public-private standpoint because we've never had a project with so much international involvement. We have, of course, London Edinburgh Trust and Balfour Beatty, but in addition, we have several jurisdictions. It's a 31-acre site. Approximately 20 acres is within the city of Atlanta. The remainder is in College Park, East Point, and unincorporated Fulton County. In addition to the multi-government aspect, we also had the federal government involvement and had to coordinate extensively with the FAA because of the close proximity to the airport. We feel that this project exemplifies the essence of the public-private cooperation and does several things for the city with regard to revenues, with regard to the minority business participation components, and also with regard to the fact that we are trying to plan something that has an international aspect to it. Most cities, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, have tremendous developments around their airport. We in Atlanta feel that we are very, very fortunate to have so much land literally right next to the runways, 31 acres right there. We feel that we've got a strong development team with international experience. LET and Balfour Beatty have developed commercial projects at Heathrow Airport and also Charles de Gaulle in Paris. Coupled with our local teams, we think that we'll be able to come up with a project that is state-of-the-art and will really anchor Southside development, provide tremendous jobs and revenues for the city, and also just come up with something that's befitting of an international airport that we have here at Hartsfield. I won't belabor you with all of the facts and statistics. They're in your packets, and if you have any questions during Q&A, please feel free to ask myself or any of the other principals. Okay, I'm going to need to introduce John Aiken first, and then John, would you say a word? John Aiken with Balfour Beatty, and then we'll open up for Q&A.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Following our group's investment in Atlanta in Heary International, it was natural for my company, Balfour Beatty Developments, to begin looking for property development opportunities here. It was also natural for us to look jointly with London and Edinburgh Trust, for we have a long track record of successful projects carried out and being carried out with them in the United Kingdom and throughout Europe. We also have a good few years' experience in working closely with local government in the United Kingdom on urban regeneration projects. So we feel extremely comfortable with the kind of public-private sector partnership we are now committed to in Atlanta. The project itself is very exciting, and Charles Graham is going to say a few words in just a minute about it. And we hope that the excitement is the message that you will go away today from this press conference. The airport area has, we feel, great development potential. One only has to compare the Hartsfield area with other even lesser international airports to know that this must be so. Communications to and from the site by road and by public transport are excellent, both for downtown and for the airport itself. So in short, we in Balfour Beatty Developments believe this to be an excellent opportunity, and we are all committed to expending every effort to make it the success it deserves to be. So now to tell you more about the project in detail, I'd like to hand over to Charles Graham. Charles?
Good morning. I don't want to go into too much detail, but I think you can see before you there's an office building and a hotel on the foreground, and these are the first two phases of the development. The buildings represented in blue are future phases, which we've represented with water features in the middle. Looking at the hotel, you can see, in fact, it's a 410-room hotel, and we are in the last stages of agreeing a joint venture and management agreement with one of the national hotel chains, which we believe will make the hotel a success. We've agreed substantial goals with the City of Atlanta for minority participation, not only in the construction, but also in the ongoing management. And we're determined to ensure that those goals, in fact, become reality. We look forward to starting the hotel towards the end of the year, and the office building that you see here in the background is the first phase. It'll be 150,000 square feet of speculative office space, although we have, before even announcing the project, a tentative arrangement for the leasing of almost one floor of the 7 floors that you see. We're very excited about this, and we feel that the demand at the airport will be very substantial. It's just been waiting for a commitment of this type of exposure and size in order to take off. The future phases can be in a number of different ways. We're, in fact, encouraging users of all sorts. The large blue building down here, we believe, will be visible from the freeways, from the airport itself, and has a chance for enticing a very major corporation who wants that type of exposure. The other 2 buildings are smaller representative buildings which can be built for corporations themselves or for speculative use. We've incorporated a substantial amount of parking on the site, and we expect to be able to connect this Hartsfield Centre with the airport by means of a shuttle bus. I don't think you probably need to know more specifics, but if you would like to know, we'd be delighted to answer the questions. I should also reiterate that the London Edinburgh Trust is also committed to the Atlanta area, and we're delighted to be part of this exciting project. Thank you.
Are there any questions on this? Thank you very much. We think this represents an opportunity for us to plan 31 acres in a systematic way, produce about 200 permanent jobs, and bring about $160 million additional investment into our city. And Atlanta Economic Development Corporation has done several projects like this, including 2 industrial parks that have generated several thousand jobs in the city. We're open now to questions about the Democratic Convention or anything else you want to ask about. I hear this was a slow news day.
Mr. Mayor, do you think that Jesse Jackson is entitled to what he is asking, namely that he be treated differently from other candidates who ran for president but were unable to get enough delegates to vote?
Well, I think that Jesse Jackson is probably asking that there be a different concept of the convention. And I'm not speaking for him, but what I hear him saying and what he has said to me, that rather than a winner-take-all situation where everybody else is ignored, that what we have to do is to reconcile those differences in order to move forward as a united group toward the next election. Now, in some sense, you might say that there has been serious consideration given to the right wing of the party in the nomination of Lloyd Bentsen, but that there's another wing, and I think Jesse's expression is it takes 2 wings to fly. And what I think we're going to see in the week that we're here is an attempt at reconciliation that will move us forward as a united party. It ought to make the convention interesting, and it probably, while the conventional wisdom is that the best politics is a tea party with no controversy and just an automatic showcase, which you probably have in New Orleans, that there's something really attractive and vibrant about democracy at work in prime time. And hopefully we're going to come out of it much the better for it, whatever we do.
Is there a risk in this, namely that the party might appear not to have the unity that it needs in order to win in November?
Well, I think that's the risk. But I've been very proud of the concern that's been expressed. And if you're asking for, a choice of somebody to just be quiet and let the middle of the party and the right, go their way, and somebody that says, oh no, we're a part of this train too, and we need to get this thing together, we're probably a lot healthier for pulling together the differences. And there's been no talk, I think, of not supporting the ticket or the party. There's simply, I think, a request for a continuing understanding, a continuing dialogue, and really an involvement. And I think that kind of involvement is what brings the kind of commitment that gets a large voter turnout and wins an election.
Ron Brown said today he thought there really is a concern that Reverend Jackson's supporters might not get behind the ticket if they're not satisfied with what happens at the convention.
Well, I don't think that's a big problem. I think that the Jackson supporters probably have most to lose. That is not only his black supporters, but his farm supporters, his worker supporters, that for them, politics is a matter of survival. And they're not doing very well. We're not doing very well under the kind of leadership that we've had in the last 8 years.
Any concern at all that things might get out of control either within the convention or on the streets of Atlanta?
Very little. I say we're a town that really is built on the First Amendment. And our police force, our politics, most of the demonstrations will be led by ministers that are part of the civil rights movement. Even the Klan, which plans to have a demonstration, has had demonstrations here before. Nobody makes anything of it. It's a free speech opportunity, and they're free to speak, but everybody else is free to ignore. And that's basically what we've tried to do in the city.
Are you offended at all by the naming of the park for Mr. Venable?
Well, I think we need to make a distinction between Stone Mountain Park, which is a state park. That remains a state park. What we're talking about is a small park in the city of Stone Mountain that I think is on land that was given by Mr. Venable. And I let Stone Mountain handle its own politics.
One more question.
Yes.
Do you feel that Jesse Jackson is, in any real sense, the successor to Martin Luther King?
I think in a very real sense, Jesse Jackson has taken the mantle of moral leadership and a passionate concern for the oppressed and the poor all over the world, which is clearly the mantle of Martin Luther King.
Thanks.
Could you tell me who you are? I'm sorry.
Yes, Dave. My name's Warren Alney. I represent KCBS Television in Los Angeles.
Very good. Glad to have you in town.
Thank you.
I'm Larry Eichel. I'm with the Philadelphia Inquirer. Just wonder what you think we're going to learn about these two men and the way they work out this rift, problem, whatever you want to call it, in the next 4 or 5 days.
I think that you'll find that both of them are extremely intelligent, extremely tough, but extremely concerned about representing those things which they feel are essential to both the governing and the survival of a constituency. It ought to be an interesting, well, it ought to be an interesting little battle.
I mean, I guess some of us, there's some feeling that they're letting personal feelings get in the way of each of their own long-run self-interest here.
I don't think, I really don't think that what you're seeing is personal interest. I think that one, Michael Dukakis sees as his primary concern charting a solid, moderate course that will attract the majority of American voters to win. And I bless him for that. I'm grateful for that single-mindedness on his part. At the same time, I think Jesse Jackson, and to some extent Lloyd Benson and Al Gore and others have represented significant constituencies within the Democratic Party that need to be assured that they're not forgotten or that they're not going to be ignored. And maybe what we're seeing here is a quest for some reassurance. I remember being in a meeting with President Carter, who was not particularly attractive or well known to most of the black leadership. And it really took just really one or two statements on his part. One, that he was grateful for all of the support and that he really wanted to be involved with everybody, and that in governing, that he wanted to assure people that he would be governing fairly, that they would not be making appointments without representing the broad base of the Democratic Party. I don't think there's any question about that with a Dukakis administration, but I think it probably needs to be said somewhere along the line, either personally or publicly.
Why do you think it hasn't been said so far?
Well, I think that you've had people charting a course to win a series of primaries, and they've done that very, very successfully. And now there's a different task, and I don't know that they have really worked out the entire strategy of how not only to pull this party together, but how to pull the majority of the American people together. And so they're really dealing with two tasks. I think that the task of, and the appointment of nomination of Lloyd Benson is probably an attempt to reach out to those uncommitted voters that by and large have not been in the primary process, but who are now going to be concerned about who's running the country. And that is of utmost importance. At the same time, I think you've got to make sure that the people who have been in the primary process and who have been the activists in the party feel comfortable with the outcome. And certainly not estranged by the outcome. They're trying to put this on C-SPAN, I think, so it would help if you would go to the mics. And there's another one here and one over here.
Mayor Mike Posner, Reuters news agency. Do you believe, do you agree with Reverend Jesse Jackson's call for Jimmy Carter to mediate the dispute, or do you think the two sides should do it?
No, I don't know how that goes. I think what Jesse was saying is that Jimmy Carter is a person who understands this process and who did it very well in '76, and that his input could be helpful. I don't see this as any, Camp David mediation. I think it's more reconciliation of attitudes and views of people who have been competitors and who now have to become part of the same team. And that there is a process there, and it should not, or it need not be automatic. I can remember other conventions, 1968 in particular, when McCarthy went away and left the convention and you did not hear from him until late in September. That would be a disaster for us now as it was then. I think it's much better to have the understanding out front and say we're going to have the enthusiastic involvement of all of the people in the party right from the beginning of once we leave here with a ticket right on through not only of the election, but governing the next 4 years.
So you're saying that it'd be better for the two sides to work it out?
I think that, one, I know the people on both sides, and they're very intelligent people, and you know, none of them is particularly radical or wild or demanding. They all want to win this election. And I think there just needs to be some understanding about a common strategy that brings everybody along.
The Georgia Dome Corporation has set as a deadline the 31st of this month for approval by City Council as well as the Fulton County Commission. Do you plan to take a step in the mediation process between the ministers and the community and the Georgia Dome Corporation?
Well, I think that there is a process going on. I have been involved in that process. And what we're trying to do is to vote on what we do with the sales tax, the hotel motel tax. After we voted in the county to tax your hotel rooms 1% to help pay the cost of this convention. And at the end of the 3 years, rather than that tax sunset, the vote is to extend it to include the development of a Georgia Dome seating 72,000 people. I think that's wonderful for the city. It's wonderful for the conventions that would seek to come here. And I have been very supportive of that. We've always said, though, that we've got to do this in such a way that it doesn't negatively impact the neighborhoods, and that the churches that are on the property or immediately adjacent to the property are either protected or compensated. And that's been my position all along, and one that we will continue to implement.
Mr. Mayor, Julie Gautier with CBS News, speaking about the seating size of convention centers, how do you answer those people who think that there is a problem with the size of the Omni?
Well, I would say that we agree, that we wish it was, another 10,000 seats. But I don't think, and I've been to every convention since 1964, and there has never been a convention arena that will accommodate the purposes of the convention any better. And those purposes are essentially, we will accommodate the delegates, we will accommodate the press, we will accommodate the nation. We are shortchanged in terms of accommodating spectators within the Omni. But there's never been a convention that has had 32 football fields of indoor space immediately adjacent to the Omni. And many of the activities all day long will be in the Georgia World Congress Center. So while we might not have as many spectators actually in the primetime events viewing it from the floor, we will have many more people involved all day long in the convention, and with the, I think it's 103 satellite beam-up operations, which is 15 times, 20 times as many as existed even in 1980, that we will probably have more and better exposure as a result of the facilities that are here in Atlanta. And when you get back from New Orleans, I think you'll appreciate Atlanta.
What do you say to those prominent Democrats who will be sitting across the street in the World Congress Center and will not be there during the proceedings?
I say that they will be having probably a better time. I have been squeezed into these little seats on the floor where you can't see the podium and where you can't move. They will be sitting in more or less luxury boxes, being entertained, eating and drinking, smoking and jabbering away and having themselves a ball. And it'll be sort of like the luxury boxes at the Super Bowl. I never heard anybody complain in one of those luxury boxes.
One more question. What happened to the good old red, white, and blue?
I don't know. You know, people get very artsy. These are you know, Atlanta street streamers. I think there'll be plenty of red, white, and blue around the city and in the convention hall.
But pink, white, and aquamarine?
I wasn't the art consultant.
Thank you.
Mayor, it's Ann Opatowski with ABC Network. This is even a lighter question. Lots of people outside Atlanta think of Atlanta as Scarlet, Rhett, Tara, Southern cooking. Is that the real South?
Well, it's part of it. I mean, Rhett Butler and Technicolor, who could complain? I mean, I wouldn't mind that image.
Is it an image
but it's you know, it's you're talking about 100 years ago, and that's what people know. But I think what we've tried to maintain is and integrate is some of the civility, some of the charm, some of the family loyalty that you see from that period. And I think that's what people are going to share in their visits to homes and neighborhoods on Sunday. That does exist, but there's another sense, more represented by the international investment that we talked about here today, that has nothing to do with that, that is much more related to our emergence as a place that has probably attracted more investment in a short period of time than almost any other city in the world.
Is there a part, though, that you'd like to retain?
Oh, very much of that. I mean, we try to keep the city friendly, and we want people to drive friendly. We hope that when you are greeted in the hotels and in the restaurants, you will find that that people welcome you. That sort of civility. The other thing I think we're trying to retain, which I think is very relevant to the convention, we don't have any problem with disagreements in Atlanta. We've got all kinds of disagreements, all kinds of feuds, all kinds of diversity. But there's nothing that we can't sit down around the table and resolve and come out with, you know, a common direction.
But those that will be coming to Atlanta with stereotypes in their mind, they won't be seeing women in ball gowns saying fiddle-dee-dee, I guess. Huh?
No, but they won't complain about the women that they see.
Mayor Mark Mayfield at USA Today. Do you see any risks for Jesse Jackson politically in the future, both within and without the party, if he chooses to go to the floor and fight this time around?
Well, there's always a risk, but I think it's a calculated risk, which I think he's probably willing to take, and which I think because he has demonstrated his continuing involvement and loyalty. In fact, I talked with Jesse last night, and one of the things they're trying to do on the bus trip is to continue to register voters and to continue to get the kind of commitment from local governments and from states to the notion of a universal franchise where you can just vote because you're a citizen, and where there's not all of the red tape and registration and everything else that has basically been used to discriminate against working people voting. That those are good issues that ought to be discussed and raised in the political process. And insofar as he's successful in doing that, while there is a risk attached, I think there's also a reward to that.
Morris Stiggs from WAGA Atlanta. Can you shed any more light on your conversation with Jesse Jackson last night, how he's feeling, his mood?
Well, I think I get his mood to be very positive. And and a feeling that he's still, you know, on this crusade. He's still bringing people into the party, still registering new voters, still very optimistic about the process. But I think not having a defined relationship right now to the present ticket. And that's something that I think will come out of a week together here in Atlanta.
There's not a great deal of time for that. He keeps talking about being part of the equation. Do you have any sense of how he defines equation?
Yeah, I think a common understanding of the strategy for winning, for instance. A continuing debate on the issues. You know, I use the illustration of the civil rights platform in 1948. It lost in the convention in 48 when Hubert Humphrey introduced it, but it has dominated the life of our party ever since. And I think it doesn't matter to Jesse whether or not he wins on some of the platform issues. I think he sees this as an opportunity to express concerns to the nation that he's convinced will be dominant issues on into the next century, and that this is an opportunity to help the American public, both Democrat and Republican, understand the importance of these issues. That's what a convention is about. And I think if you can do that without being hostile or fractious, which I think with his leadership we can, then I think you've got a very lively convention and you've got a very strong party.
For Jackson's supporters, does the challenge for Dukakis boil down to his making some tangible gesture to Jackson that is seen as more than tokenism?
Well, I would rather say it probably amounts to a more, you know, public expression. I don't think Jesse's looking for, in fact, he says he's not looking for any private deals or any negotiations. But there are some understandings that probably need to occur between the right, the middle, and the progressive wing of the party that have not yet occurred. And that's what a convention's for.
But is it as simple as this sense of respect that many people feel was lost? Is it as simple as a picture of that respect being regained? Or?
No, I think that's putting it in a much too personal and emotional context. I think what Jesse's talking about is a serious political reconciliation of the party. And as he said, the right wing in the party is very well and publicly represented in the nomination of Lloyd Bentsen. What about this 30 to 40% of the party that is on the other side of Dukakis? That it's important, and it's a good Jesse Jackson expression. It takes two wings to fly. And if you got the right wing, you need to look after the other wing. And it's Dukakis' job to make the party fly. That's not personal, but it challenges the concept that the primary process is a winner-take-all, and everybody else, either just goes away or falls in line. And it says that there needs to be some, and I keep using the term reconciliation of these forces and attitudes and ideas, and also strategies. I don't happen to agree with some of Jesse's strategies. I don't yet know what Dukakis' strategies are. I don't agree with some of Lloyd Bentsen's ideas. But I want to feel comfortable with this party, and I want to feel comfortable with everything and everybody by the time we leave here. And that would be my objective. not only to have me comfortable personally, but to have the American people begin to understand how this party with this tremendous diversity is going to contain all of these factions and forces and ideas and give vibrant, effective, and the caucus's word is competent leadership to this country. And I think that's, you know, that's a challenge which I have no doubt that Governor Dukakis will meet. Thank you very much, and anything else we can do the rest of the week, please let us know. Everybody knows about the big press party Saturday night. There is all members of the media are invited to the Georgia World Congress Center Saturday night about 9. 8? And we look forward to seeing everybody there. Oh, of course.
I understand some of you have